The sand in the hourglass is running low. I came through thunder, the cold wind, the rain, and the snow to find you awake by your windowsill.
A sight for sore eyes and a view to kill.
I broke down in horror at you standing there. The glow from the moon shone through cracks in your hair. I shouted with passion, I love you so much, but feeling my skin, it was cold to the touch. You whispered, where are you? I questioned your doubt, but soon
Realized you were talking to God now.
you got blood on your hands, and I know it's mine. I just need more time, so get off your low, let's dance like we used to. And there's a light in the distance waiting for me, and I will wait for you. So get off your low, let's kiss like we used to.
What's up, guys? Woo! All right. So some of you are saying I'm a little late. I mentioned on Twitter I was running about 15 minutes late. I'm 7 minutes behind that. I am sorry. I realize that some of you are watching at incredibly indecent times. It's like 2 a.m. some places, 3 a.m. some places, 5 a.m. some places. I apologize. Thank you for joining. Whew. Sorry, I got back. I landed like 2 hours ago, and then I had a bunch of stuff to do. I made it. We made it. Huh. Yes, Deadpool cufflinks. I got those as a gift from Marvel at Comic-Con last year, and I finally got to wear them. I'm very excited. It's only 7 p.m. in Texas. Oh, I didn't do so bad. Also, I think I'm in the process of ordering Thai food. I haven't ordered it yet, but I'm super hungry. So, I might order that right now after we hang up. Oh, Nicole, you have to work. Thank you so much for being here in spirit. From Malaysia. No freaking way. That's so cool. All right. First of all, let's do the general overview. Thoughts. What do we think of 1984 so far? How are people doing? Do they think it's an interesting book? Is it hard for some people to get through? Based on the last book we read, this is totally different. What are you guys thinking? Come on. Shoot it at me. What do you guys think? Because I have a lot of ideas about this book. Amazing. Love it. Do I collect books by the covers? No, but I definitely choose books by the way they look. Meaning, like, not by the cover, because the cover's interesting, but I choose them how the words look. Because some of the fonts in certain books I don't like. So different publishing companies I tend to stay away from only because the fonts that they tend to publish in aren't my favorite. Either they bother my eyes or something like that. Okay, hard to get through at first, but you're getting better. Good. Confused? That's okay. We're going to talk about that. Para todos que están hablando en español, ¿qué piensan del libro? Dime, cosas que piensan sobre como cosas sobre el libro todavía, no cosas específicas, pero cosas como fácil para leer o difícil o cosas así. Really intelligent. Okay, cool. Making me question everything. That's a good thing. You should always question everything. Instantly grabbed you. I love that. Cool. Writing style, stark. Yeah, very different compared to To Kill a Mockingbird, right? I'm not gonna lie, Niner Girl. It took me a while reading it out loud to finally get into the way that Orwell speaks and his prose. It was like, It helps me put a British accent on, though. I'll tell you that much. All right, Catherine, there's no need to worry about political because this book is political. It feels like it applies to much of the U.S. right now, like, whoa, so close to home. I don't know if that's so much political as it is to do with technology. Very relevant. This book has continued to be relevant. I'm going to read a little passage from something I was researching. So you guys know, I don't agree with SparkNotes, but I agree with SparkNotes. SparkNotes is a great way to read themes and to get the way people have analyzed things. You shouldn't use it for the entirety of reading, but it helps when you're just trying to understand something or look at a certain chapter. SparkNotes can be beneficial in conjunction with reading, not instead of. All right. I love how it develops with time. Cool. Está medio raro de entender. It's a little, sí, está un poquito, es medio raro por seguro. I think even though it seems fictional, there are many aspects we can see in everyday lives. Perfect. Love the way it's written. Love that. Sorry, I fell behind. Let me scoot all the way to the top. What's Spark Notes? If you don't know, oh God, what did I just do? Nothing. Un Black Mirror en papel. Sí, es algo muy interesante como Black Mirror. Es algo que cuando alguien lo lea le empieza a pensar mucho. I love how the plot thickens. Me too. I love the way he's built this character. In part 1, I'm like, nothing's happened yet, but everything's happened. It's cool. Okay, you read it before? Great read. Fácil de leer, un poco raro, pero eso no le quita el bueno del libro. Good. Bueno. I love the style of dystopian writing. George Orwell's word choice is very different from some modern dystopian novels. True. I read every chapter, but I used to use Spark Notes to help me get better understanding stuff. Good, Nicole. That's what Spark Notes, I think, should be for. It should be for you to read and be like, let me read this again, and we look through some part. Oh, okay. It should never be instead of. It should always be like, let me do this, and then go to that, and then go back. Hard to read at first. Once you get into the groove, I totally agree, Amelia. Telescreens are scary, like notebooks or iPhones or Siri. I use Spark Notes for my middle school students. With Shakespeare, it was easier to teach them that way, and it helps Shakespeare language. Yes, I agree. Oh wait, Andrea Hayes, that's you. What's up? I think what sticks to me most is Newspeak. That's great. Let me write that down. We're gonna talk about that later when we get into that. Where are we supposed to stop? It's all good. Bumble Bailey, we're stopping at part 1. We're not going past it. I haven't read past it, so I'm not going to speak past it. But part 1. Oh, I've seen that episode. Black Mirror is trippy. Big Brother scares the hell out of me, as it should. It is a scary concept. Ooh, I love that comment. Is it Kiyomi Coronado? I'm sorry if I pronounced it incorrectly. I feel confused, but I'm not actually confused, but the feeling of confusion is there. I love that. And I think that's something that our main character, Winston, is playing with. This confusion, this confusion with this rectifying reality in the past. Part 3 gets better. All right, cool, I can't wait. Okay, you read it in high school and you hated it, but you're really enjoying it this time around. That's why you should always reread books. I will tell you guys this, after rereading Slaughterhouse-Five, after we finished reading it and ruminating on it and thinking about it, it's no longer my favorite book. It's up there, but it's still one of my favorite books, but it's not my absolute favorite anymore, which is cool, interesting. Contrast between Julie and Winston, interesting, right? $1984, you can most definitely buy it in the UK, Chesney, 1992. You could also find it online. I know I have tweeted and retweeted different PDFs of it. Newspeaks and Doublethink are very interesting. You're right, Bianca. George Orwell es uno de mis autores favoritos. ¿Tienes un personaje favorito? Yo no sé. Kurt Vonnegut es uno de mis autores favoritos. ¿Y un personaje del libro? Todavía no. It does make you think, Maya, awesome, good. He definitely make you think of the way we do stuff now. He definitely stretched it out. We're introduced to many characters, but absolutely know nothing about them, so it leaves you guessing about the significance they can have in the plot. Totally agree. Take a shower. Doublethink is so interesting. Newspeak is facepalm. Yes, makes you facepalm. I agree. Paranoid just reading it. Love it. Ignorance is strength. What is something I said in my past life? I said ignorance is the tool of the oppressor. So now they're trying to make you think it's strength. Everything. Let's let me find the, I think it's in the first chapter that those things are written. Hold on. Let's go. Are we going to dive in? We're going to dive in. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. Monica, that's a great question. You know what? Before we dive in, I'm going to read something about a theme analysis of this book. All right? Let me see. Is this what I want to do? Yes. It's something I found online, and I'm going to read it to you guys really quickly. George Orwell, published 1984 in 1949. Not as an actual prediction of future events, but to warn the world against what he feared would be the fate of humanity if a totalitarian regime were allowed to seize power, as they had just done with Hitler in Germany and the Soviet Union under Stalin. So, at the time that this book was written, World War II had just ended. The world had just seen the devastation of really Hitler's totalitarian regime, the Nazis. They've seen what he did, that he took complete control of this country, killed 6 million Jews and millions of other people. Does anyone know how many people died in World War II? It's incredible. Like 80 million people died in World War II. Something just absolutely, I don't think you can fathom how many people that is. Hold on. So here we go. In the aftermath of World War II, Anglo-American intellectuals were reluctant to criticize, that's not important, Orwell, who witnessed firsthand the Soviet-backed communist brutal suppression of rival political groups during the Spanish Civil War, and returned from war an outspoken critic of communism. For the rest of his life, he worked tirelessly to expose the evils of totalitarianism. To reviewers who wished to see this book as a critique of communism, Orwell maintained that he had set the book in Britain in order to show that totalitarianism could succeed anywhere, if not fought against. In the novel, Ingsoc, or English Socialism, Ingsoc is the newspeak word for it, represents the worst features of both the Nazi and the communist regimes. The party's ultimate ambition is to control the minds as well as the body of its citizenry and thus control reality itself. That's one of the themes we see in the book, reality control. Think of all the ways that Big Brother in the book is trying to control the reality that the people live in. So if you think about that, nothing's illegal. I mean, that's one thing I thought was interesting. There were so many things that were extremely frowned upon. He was like, it's not technically illegal to do this, but if a party member were walking in the paroles area after a certain time, right? It was very interesting. They're playing with what's wrong and what's not wrong. War is peace. Oppression. What is it? War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. They're making you constantly question the reality that they're living in, and then they've done everything they can to create this fake reality. Think of how much they're rectifying or changing the past. Remember what I said last live? Only through looking at the past can we see where we're going in the future. And if they're changing the past, where the hell are we going? Así es, el patrón lo mantiene gracias a la ignorancia del pueblo, y lo cual lo han sometido. Exactly. Propaganda 100%. I know any of the Argentinian fans we have will understand how scary it is when Winston talks about the disappearance of people. This has happened in the world. There have been regimes. There have been multiple regimes. I'm talking in the old Russia, I'm talking in Latin America, I'm talking all over the world. There have been regimes where people have disappeared. And it's crazy. Exactly, with the phrase freedom of slavery, they're slaves without releasing, and thus thinking they're free. I mean, one of the questions that Winston asks is like, what would be better? Is freedom really great? And that's to me one of the hardest scenes to read. For me, that really hurt me, was like, when he follows that old man, when he follows the old man into the bar and he gets him a beer and he talks to them, and he's really trying to extract this, because that's what he's really trying to find out, but he can't directly ask the question. He's like, is this really all there is? Is this as good as it gets? Freedom is to be able to say freely that 2 and 2 are 4. If this is granted, everything else will come by its counted steps. The telescreen. Are we really free? Very good question. The media manipulates everything here in Brazil. Stella, I'd like to... Okay, there's one thing I want to talk about really quickly because my mom and I were talking. My mom's a brilliant lady. And her and I had expressed what I was saying, and she's like, be careful. I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea with our book club. Remember, my goal in doing this book club and talking to you is that you guys get the inspiration and the drive to educate yourselves. Never trust anything anyone says, even me. I'm wrong a lot. Remember, we're all pillars of salt. Who remembers that? Remember, we're all pillars of salt, so your job is to watch both sides. Read everything and everything in the middle, and then determine for yourself what is right. We're in a time where, on both sides of the spectrum, the media is only serving its purpose to promote their point of view. Truly objective journalism, unfortunately, is very hard to find now. So it's your job to be your own journalist, your job to be your best teacher. The whole ignorance is strength argument is very real because if you think about how the United States is right now, we do live in a very ignorant, dominant world. True. But the ignorance is on both sides. Just one side feels it's more educated, and in that case it makes it more ignorant. And the other side is, remember, life is a circle. Everything's a circle. So there's a point of tolerance where you become intolerant, because you become intolerant of people who are intolerant. And that's just as dangerous. Remember, everything's a circle, and your job is to find the middle. And Monica, that's a great point. Don't let society tell you when you're wrong, when you're right. Follow your own sense of truth. In the end, we shall make thought crime impossible because there will be no words with which to express it. All right, let's talk about that really quickly. Oh wait, we'll talk about that when we get there. I'm going to dive in. So the first things I thought were cool were when he talked about the different ministries that ran the world. Remember, he works for what? The ministry of... Where is someone? What are you guys going to say it? Which ministry does he work for? Well, this is something... Oh boy, I cannot pronounce your name. I'm sorry. It scares me how people in 1984 are easily manipulated and how people now are getting more like them every day. That they can't think for themselves and they just want to live free. Well, one thing that a lot of people... Ministry of Plenty, good stuff. Ministry of Plenty. Malachi, awesome. Ministry of Plenty. But one thing that I was taught, because my father's from Cuba, in case you guys don't know, he left Cuba at 5 days old during Castro's regime when he was able to leave with his father. And the one thing that they teach there, that to me my dad said to me many times and has been said in democracy, said in the United States, democracy and freedom is only one generation away from being gone. And that's something that people don't understand right now. Democracy is only one generation away from being gone. So yes, what's the biggest struggle that Winston has? No one has been alive long enough to remember the truth. So all Winston, he was young before the revolution, but he barely remembers it. Now all he knows and all the adults he knows and everything that surrounds him, I do not do my eyebrows. Everything, my mom would love me to, but I don't. Everything that surrounds him only knows the party in Oceania. They don't know anything before that. And that's why it's very dangerous. That's why we always have to fight for this freedom. That's why it's a constant struggle. That's why the forefathers of the United States knew democracy was an experiment, because it had to be fought for. Each generation had to renew the promise to move forward in democracy. Manipulation of information, alternative facts, those are things we have to be careful about. Those are things we have to pay attention to from both sides. Just because one side seems like it's telling us the truth doesn't mean it is. Doesn't mean it's not. And the other side maybe doesn't. And that's exactly it, Slick Nick. Power of the people. The people hold the power. Always. Whether or not we believe it. One of my favorite quotes in V for Vendetta is, people should never be afraid of their government. A government should be afraid of their people. Oh, you're right. He works at the Ministry of Truth. You're so right. My B. My B. Yeah, that's on me. That's on me. Okay. So in the beginning of the book, we meet Winston. And we learn that he did have a past before the party, but he barely remembers it. But I think the proles are free. I think the proles are free. Think about all the things they're allowed to do and allowed to have. They're allowed to express themselves in a way that 1984 isn't. And I think one of the biggest themes is the loss of individuality. In the research I did, they call it the individual versus the collective identity. To me, it's the loss of individuality. My bad. I've never seen The Giver, but I read it in school. That was one of the books that I actually really liked, and I read the whole thing. We might put that on the list. Maybe. I think Nicole, that's a very good point. I think he's jealous of the proles, and I think he is intrigued. What life must be like, that freedom that he does desire. And one thing they talk about is that innate understanding of what freedom is. Like, an animal doesn't know it's free until you put it in a cage. And then it knows, and its behavior starts to exhibit that this is not what it should be. This is not where it should be. Winston sees the proles as humanity's last hope. Do you think he could eventually lead her for rebellion? I don't know. I think that's, to me, if you have to ask me right now, I haven't read it. I don't know where it's going, but I think that's where it is. I think he sees hope in the proles. He sees individuality. He sees freedom of expression in them. And it's only in their area that he finds the book, that he finds the diary, that he talks to the man, where he gets the glass statue. That's beautiful. Chesney, what do you mean, explain Winston? The point of telescreens are very much so that they are constantly monitored. Remember, in the beginning of the book, one of the first things he says is, even a flicker of the eyes could give you away. Why? Because now thought crimes are illegal. Imagine that. If even having individual thoughts that oppose the party became illegal, how do you control someone's thoughts? You do it in a number of ways. You make them think that their thoughts of freedom are wrong by calling freedom slavery. You make them not have as many words to describe what they feel, and you make any words that could possibly be negative about the party no longer existent. And when Winston talks about his friend, that he's like, that guy's gonna die. He knows, because that guy gets it, but he's inspired by it, but he still gets it. He knows what their motives are, but he doesn't see it as a bad thing. But the problem is, I think he will eventually, and then that's when the party's gonna be like... See, the funny thing is, Winston's a rebel without even knowing what that really means. He's just questioning. I think Winston's... Yeah, Syme is the guy that does that. He's like, oh, wow, the number of words, and wow, newspeak. To me, that was the scariest thing. Why? Because words carry weight. All right, this is a little tangent I'm going to go on real quick. My mom once taught me this. She goes, always be careful about what you say. When you say it, it can never be taken back. It can never be unheard. Because words have power. Language has power. That's why when you see people who don't care for language, you should pay attention. Always. Regardless of who they are. Language has power. Your words have power. You use specific words for specific reasons. And when they start taking out your words, do you think he's afraid of his own thoughts? Absolutely. Maya, I think he's absolutely afraid of his thoughts because he recognizes it. The thoughts he's having is a thought crime. In the beginning of the book, he sits down with his diary and he writes in, down with Big Brother. And he's like, even owning this diary, even thinking the thoughts of wanting to have his own individual thoughts was illegal. And the thought police could be there any second. Imagine the prison in which he lives, if that's the case. What influence could O'Brien have on Winston's character development? There's that spark of someone else is on my level. And I think everyone here will agree when you recognize someone else that you connect with, it invigorates you. It strengthens you. Right?
Esta historia me recuerda de las medidas migratorias de tu país. Ahora pueden revisar nuestras redes sociales invadiendo nuestra privacidad y decidiendo a partir de ellas
quién pasa o quién pierde su vida, su visa. Eso es una cosa muy importante para ver. Y mira, puedes pensar, sorry guys, remember when he wrote this book? This was 1949, right after the world had seen Nazism, and they were afraid that this might happen. They were afraid, like people were very scared. They don't know what was going to happen. And because of the spread of Nazism, the Cold War, remember the Cold War ended right when World War II ended. The Cold War started because now it was who's going to be the superpower. Nuclear war was there, a possibility. The United States had this power, and in order to stay, boom, they had to. It was crazy. So everyone's afraid of what's happening. But remember, fear is a huge tactic too. Don't ever forget that. That's one of the things in this book. They use fear. The way things are reported in this book is through use of fear. They scare you. So whenever you get afraid, think about, why am I afraid? Who's making me afraid? About what and why? Important questions. This book, I think, teaches you how to ask the right questions more than anything and make sure that your answers are there. Exactly, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it. It says, fear drives people to do things they never usually would under normal circumstances. The party uses fear to manipulate population. Okay, let's talk about that. Val 86. Guys, what do you guys think about the 2-minute hate? The 2 minutes hate. 2 minutes of hate. What do you guys think about that? ¿Qué piensan sobre los 2 minutos de odio? Y no sé cómo se llama en español, pero para traducirlo de inglés a español, eso es lo que yo pienso es los 2 minutos de odio. ¿Qué piensan sobre eso? Terrifying, right? But the 2 minutes of hate, I think that was a super important part. Why? It's a ploy. Scary. Very similar to The Purge. But to me, it shows something. Well, I think because Goldstein is actually a figure of, to me, he'd be the equivalent of the rebellion in Star Wars. So, of course, the Empire would want to demonize him, right? But what does a 2 minutes of hate show you? Winston says, before you know it, even yourself, you are connected to everyone, and you are, what do? They use this human ability to connect, and they use it for their purpose. But when people are with passion and vigor, they tend to connect. I think that's an important part. It's another way for people to control to control them, but I think that's what also sparks the idea that they're connected. And it was wasn't it during the 2 minutes? I don't know if I was right. When did he connect? When did he make eye contact with O'Brien the first time? It's definitely mob mentality. I think it's also a way for them to let anger out and let that feeling oppression out. I think
It's to kind of unify their people because using all the rage for enemies of the party makes for opposition. Exactly. It unifies them, but the people don't realize they're being unified in their hatred. And I think that's something that'd be interesting. I don't know where that's going. It was during the 2 minutes hate, right? Think about that. Think about that. Everyone's having this connective moment. Even Winston, like before he knew, was yelling and stamping his feet and calling that guy a pig, but he was able to connect to someone. I think there's something in that. I'm not sure. There's something in that. Pienso que siembran este sentimiento de odio en el pueblo para tener influencia en las personas, en que sentir por quién. Claro, así es. Why does emotion exist? It makes us human. Something the party wants us to stop being. The party wanted them to stop being. They wanted to be machines. I think it is foreshadowing. An individual dies during the 2 minutes hate. But the populace is connected. I think that's important. All right, let's start talking about our favorite quotes. What do you guys think? I want to pull through. Oh! There's something I really want to talk about in chapter 3. I'm going to read it to you guys. All right? We shall meet in the place where there is no darkness. Shadow, if you haven't read it, you should go read it. Rita is a badass. Until they are conscious, they cannot rebel. Until they rebel, they can never be conscious. How crazy is that idea? I love that quote. Love that quote. Good quote. So, okay, Little Red Reader. You come upon one of the themes that I'm currently reading about. I'm sorry I didn't get time to really dive into that. I'll talk about it next time, but I'll read you the beginning of that, Little Red Reader. That's one of the big themes in this book. It's sex and love. As Julie observes, the party polices sexual relationships because it realizes that hysteria caused by sexual frustration can be harnessed into war fever, leader worship. Sexual desire can compete with loyalty to the state. Think if they try to control your sex, they're like, oh, I shouldn't do that. I should compete with the state. But then, I don't know. But hold on. I'm going to read this one part from chapter 3 because there's something about the loss of deep emotion I want to talk about. He could not remember what had happened, but he knew in his dream that in some way the lives of his mother and his sister had been sacrificed to his own. It was one of those dreams which, while retaining the characteristic dream scenery, are a continuation of one's intellectual life, and in which one becomes aware of facts and ideas which still seem new and valuable after one is awake. The thing that now suddenly struck Winston was that his mother's death nearly 30 years ago had been tragic and sorrowful in a way that was no longer possible. Tragedy, he perceived, belonged to an ancient time, to a time when there was still privacy, love, and friendship, and when the members of a family stood by one another without needing to know the reason. His mother's memory tore at his heart because she had died loving him when he was too young and selfish to love her in return, and because somehow, he did not remember how, she had sacrificed herself to a conception of loyalty that was private and unalterable. Such things, he saw, could not happen today. Today there were fear, hatred, and pain, but no dignity of emotion, no deep or complex sorrows. All this he seemed to see in the large eyes of his mother and his sister, looking up at him through green water, hundreds of fathoms down,
and still sinking. So that was from chapter 3. And there's something interesting there. The party was able to take away deep feeling, the understanding of one's family. Remember, he said no one's friends anymore. They were able to break down the connections that bring people together. The familial connections, unconditional love. They were able to f that up. Uncool. To me, that was one of the most powerful parts. Okay, Nicole, you'll see this. In a lot of regimes, they use, remember, language is powerful. So when they call it victory gin, doesn't it sound like it's the better gin than just gin? Victory coffee sounds better than just coffee. The ministry of love, he describes as the most scary of them all. The ministry of truth, all they do is rectify and change truth. All of these are so important. The way they name things, the way they call things. In authoritarian regimes, they often do this. They disguise bad things with amazing words that, in our minds, make things happen. Exactly. Patron saint of denial. Propaganda. Exactly. The ministry of peace promotes war. Think about that. They constantly want you to attach different meanings to words that we have an inherent understanding of. That's something I think is super cool about this book. And Lexi, I'm going to contradict you there. I don't like the idea of Newspeak. It scares me.
Te pones a pensar si lo que pasó en el pasado es verdad
O lo inventaron. Pero eso es una de las cosas que The Party quiere. Ellos quieren que tú no sabes lo que está pasando o lo que ha pasado. Ellos quieren que todo lo que ves es algo que ellos crearon. Algo que ellos lo han hecho para mantener esta idea que ellos son los mejores, The Party. Que ellos tienen todas las respuestas. Ellos saben todo. Crazy. I hope everyone else is reading all the comments too, because you guys are all saying really cool stuff. If I ever go quiet, that's why. Okay, Bianca, this is something that's a good question. Everyone, I want you guys to answer this question that Bianca's asking. What do you guys think about the woman following him? Do you think she's a spy, a friend, or a crush? What do you think about her? Exactly, Little Red. Twisted psychological controlling. Okay. What do you guys think about that woman? To me, I'm still unsure of her, but there's something about her. Why was she in that alleyway? She's so sus. Am I right? Good. Yes. Spy? You guys think she's a spy? Love interest? Okay. Friend? Una espía? Okay. Non-trustworthy. Interesting. I'm going to pose a question. If she's a spy, but not a real spy, because Winston saw her following him. Remember, he said a real spy, she would never know. If she was trying to be a spy or catch him, wouldn't she face just as much trouble if she got caught in that zone by herself? I think she connects to Winston even more than he does, than he knows. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. If anyone knows, don't spoil it, or I'll kick you off the book club. I'm kidding. I might. I don't know. But Mary Katenik, Mary Kate. I agree. I think she might be a love interest. I think she connects with Winston, and I think one of the things the party's been able to do that I've noticed in the book is they've been able to even question if you can even talk to people. Remember, he's like, I knew O'Brien for sure, but I can't ask him. Why? Because if he asks him, that means he's committed a thought crime. I think so too, Top Mummy. I don't think it's his wife. Remember, he talks about his wife and that they eventually separated. They would have said that it was the same person. It might be, but I don't think so. Yes, Kat, Newspeak is definitely a measure of control because it's limiting what you can think. Because, have you guys ever thought about this? Okay, maybe for some of you that speak other languages, are there ever thoughts you have in one language that you can't put in words in another language? You just have a thought, but you don't know how to explain it. There aren't words. That's what they're doing. They're eliminating words, so you eliminate thoughts. They'll still be there, but you have no way to describe them. I think, Mercy, I think you're right. I think she relates to him. So yeah, when they start eliminating words, that is going to become mandatory for everyone. They're literally eliminating thoughts that you can have. It's a scary thing. Also, I want to. What do you guys think about him calling all the waters green waters? Everything's always a deep green water. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. All right, we're going to talk about this now. I think she is a rebel, Stella. Well, I mean, if you study the other communist regimes, remember, even the former Pope Benedict was one of, like, the Nazi youths because kids can be manipulated. That's one of the things, remember, the loss of innocence, it can happen. And if they're brainwashed into thinking a certain way. Remember, there's that song from South Pacific, you've got to be taught to hate and fear. So if someone is taught that from a very early age, it's all they know. I think love comes more naturally. Love is something that we all universally speak, whether or not we know. That's why little kids don't even notice things until their parents teach them. But they can be used for bad purposes, and they think they're doing well. Why do they tell on people? Because they think they're doing what's right. All right, I'm going to read a quote, and I want you guys to tell me what you think. Ooh, I didn't know that, Ana Cat Fernandez. Green is the color of hope. The green water might be a sign of hope for change, or a sight of hope for change. Ooh, very cool. I'll keep the lookout for that. I'm going to read a quote. Let me know what you guys think of this quote. If the party could thrust its hand into the past and say this or that event never happened, that surely was more terrifying than mere torture or death. You could create dead men but not living ones. I think that goes into the quote that I just said. If I could make up some guy that invented television, remember he said, everything was invented by the party. Everything cool was invented by the party. Everything that you guys cherish, invented by the party, but there's nothing to prove them wrong. Who's to say they're not wrong? I'll say it one more time. If the party could thrust its hand into the past and say that this or that event, that never happened, that surely was more terrifying than mere torture or death. Ooh, okay. There's a passage I wanted to read to you guys, and I know I wanted to read it to you guys because that's my note. What the fuck? So let me read it for you guys. Stand easy, barked the instructress, a little more genially. Winston sank his arms to his sides and slowly refilled his lungs with air. His mind slid away into the labyrinth world of doublethink. To know and to not know, and not to know. To be conscious of complete truthfulness while telling carefully constructed lies. To hold simultaneously two opinions which canceled out. Knowing them to be contradictory and believing in both of them, to use logic against logic, to repudiate morality while laying claim to it, to believe that democracy was impossible and that the party was the guardian of democracy, to forget whatever it was necessary to forget, then draw it back into memory again at the moment when it was needed, and then promptly forget it again. And above all, to apply the same process to the process itself. That was the ultimate subtlety, consciously to induce unconsciousness, and then once again to become unconscious of the act of hypnosis you had just performed. Even to understand the word doublethink involved the use of doublethink. What are they doing? If you can't trust yourself, what can you trust? The party. If you can't trust what you've seen with your own eyes and you remember with your own memory, what can you trust? Terrifying. That whole chapter when he's going on, my note up here is, what type of hell this must be. Another question I asked myself was, can a lie become a truth? Isn't a truth always a truth, whether or not someone says it's a lie? Okay, very good, Little Red Reader. Yes, you'll see a lot of these themes in Animal Farm as well, because these are things that Orwell was constantly battling with his past and whatnot. Next time we talk, we only have about 10 minutes left, 13 minutes left, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Orwell's past and why he writes this book. Right, Linda, I want fake news. While I don't agree with Trump trying to delegitimize the media at all, in any way, shape, or form, I think there's a question that you have to ask any news source you watch. Why are they telling me this? Is this really news? And if it is, what is behind their motive? It's very important, always, no matter who it is. You always should question, question everything. Especially pillars of salt. It's losing self-truth, yes, and that's the worst thing. If you have no way to prove it's true, is it still true? That's the question. No, I don't know. I can't tell you. Oh, good. I found the part with sign. I want to talk about that. We're getting language into its final shape. The shape it's going to have when nobody speaks anything else. We finished with it. When we finished with it, people like you will have to learn it all over again. You think, I dare say, that our chief job is inventing new words, but not a bit of it. We're destroying words, scores of them, hundreds of them every day. We're cutting the language down to the bone. The 11th edition won't contain a single word that will become obsolete before the year 2050. Crazy, man. Crazy. Don't you see the whole aim of Newspeak is to narrow the range of thought? In the end, we shall make a thought crime literally impossible, because there will be no words in which to express it. Craziness! Craziness! We have about 10 minutes left, so in 5 minutes we'll start talking about tomorrow, the next reading. But what is one thing that Winston is actively doing that contradicts the party? Something that I thought was super interesting. The diary. What about the diary? What is he doing in the diary? He's writing. He's putting his own creative ideas and thoughts. And what is the happiest day? What's the best part of Winston's life? The part that he's like the only true joy he ever got out of his job. What part was it? When he gets to be creative. When he gets to say, ooh, how am I going to make this? How am I going to rectify this? Ooh, this is where I get to be and express myself through this. Human expression is individuality. Creativity is individuality. Creativity is who we are. We are humans, therefore we must create. We are all creators. Writing was illegal. Remember, they had those things where they spoke into. They weren't allowed to write. Which was like... He isn't afraid of truth. He's using courage. He has hope, and he gets to pass on his messages. Right. Creativity is his joy. Freedom to say the truth. His truth. That's his truth. He gets to write it down. It's his. Shadow Girl, you gotta read the book. I think cursive is just becoming less and less used because there's less, I don't really know why that is, but there's a less about the formality of writing. There's less, you can have your own style now. I remember cursive used to have to be very exact. Like one of my aunts writes beautiful cursive because she was like forced to learn how to do that. I think also she wants to write, you want to write well. Exactly, it's the only part of the day that makes him be a little in control of some of it. Even taking a walk, he questions it. Can I go for a walk if I'm caught in the side of town? Oh my gosh, I'm having these thoughts. If they caught me here, I'd have to lie. I'd just say I'm finding razor blade. But in that moment, he gets to be completely himself. I write very poorly in cursive. I definitely learned how to write in cursive, but I don't. My handwriting's not as legible in cursive. He is upset that he got rid of that picture of Jones, Aaron, and Rutherford because then he's like, well, that was the truth. Okay, I write in books with a pencil. Hawaii. I write in books with a pencil. It can be erased, and this is how I get a lot of the ideas to talk about. I don't like bend the spines or do something savage. I just make little notes. And they're my books. And the cool thing is, like, I gave a friend of mine Slaughterhouse-Five because she wanted to read it, and all of my notes are in there, and she's going to make notes, and then I'm going to get it back, so I'm going to get to see what notes she made. It's kind of a cool idea. Get a book you really like, put some notes in it, make your own notes, and then see what other notes people make. You cracked the spines? Savage. Savage. It's your book, you do what you want. I have friends that'll buy 2 copies of a book. One they can mark up and one just to have for, like, prosperity. All right, guys, we have about 5 minutes left. I'd say our discussion was super awesome. I'm sorry if we didn't get to talk about everything. I know we wanted to talk about a bunch of different people. We wanted to talk about Mr. Charrington. We'll talk about him next live, promise. Let's talk about what we're reading. Let's talk about the next half. Let's talk about the next section, part 2. Part 2 is a little bit longer than part 1, but I think we can do it. What do you guys think of having a live Monday. Another Monday at this time. Is that cool, or should we do it on a Sunday? Ay, perdón para todos los que hablan español. Ya terminamos de hablar sobre el libro hoy. Vamos a empezar a leer hasta parte número 2. Yo creo que lo vamos a hacer el domingo por la noche, como a las 8 o las 9 de la noche, el domingo, si puede ser. Y vamos a terminar parte 2 del libro. ¿Está bien?
Oh, es un fan de mi hermano, de la fotografía de mi hermano. Qué bueno. Sara Flores, gracias. Le voy a decir a él. Thank you. Ooh, Wednesday. I don't know. The thing is, I work on the week, guys. Like, Shadowhunters is getting kind of awesome, but it means we're working a lot. Oh my gosh, these episodes are crazy. I wish I could just, like, geek out and tell you everything, but I can't. I'll get in trouble. So I think the next live... Let me see. Déjame chequear algo. Okay, for Europeans, what time would be good for you guys Eastern Standard Time, so I know what time to think about? Like, if you guys are saying, like, you guys are like 6 hours ahead. So if I do it like a 4 o'clock Sunday, that's like 10 p.m. $8 p.m. Sunday, 5 p.m. It's 2 a.m. now and it's 9. That's a little late for you guys. So maybe we'll try to do it like 7 p.m. on Sunday. All right. Yeah, it's about it's like 160 pages almost. It's almost 160 pages. All right. I don't know what my schedule is on Sunday yet. I might be out of town again. I'll let you guys know where later. So let's plan for a 7 p.m. on Sunday. Oh, also, I need to have time to read it too, guys. I work a lot. I will save the live and I will post it so it'll be up for 24 hours. All right, we're at 2 minutes. Read part 2. As of right now, it's Sunday. I might change it to sometime during the week. How does that sound? But as of right now, let's try to get it done by Sunday the 29th. If anything, it'll be before Halloween, or I don't know. I don't want to promise anything. All right, let's make it Wednesday, the day after Halloween, so we can talk a little bit about Halloween. How does that sound? We'll make it Wednesday. Wednesday? I'm getting the countdown, so it might cut me off at any second. All right, here's what we're going to do. I'll tweet about it. It's going to cut me off probably in like 10 seconds. So I will tweet about it. Wednesday will probably be good. Okay. Vamos a hacer el próximo live para parte número 2 el miércoles que viene por la noche. O si estoy trabajando, te voy a decir en Twitter qué vamos a hacer. ¿Está bien para todos? Is that good? Wednesday. Think about Wednesday, and if that doesn't work for my work schedule, I will tweet about it, and I know all of you guys will tweet about it, and we'll get everyone on the same page. So right now, part 2 by Wednesday. Y para todos que no lean, que no han leído todavía, lee los partes, porfa. Catch up, because we're going to be talking about it, and it's going to get cooler. I know this book's going to get cool. And then part 3, we have some more time. So we'll do Wednesday, the day after Halloween. We can talk about Halloween, be like, yo, cool, candy, Halloween. Cool. All right, thank you, guys. Ooh, I'm going to hang up on it this time. What do you think, Instagram? All right, goodbye, guys. I will see you Wednesday.